Hey Justin, how are you? We got a new hat. I haven't seen this one before.
Hey, Rom. Well, I don't know if I've still kept the streak alive, but I think that I have not repeated a hat yet.
That was my follow-up. They're all distinct, and
They
I don't know, we've
are.
got at least a dozen of these, so we're gonna see how deep the well the hat reservoir goes.
The well goes deeper than a dozen, but I'm getting into the territory of hats I don't necessarily keep in the top rotation. So
It's
I don't
appropriate
know.
this time of year to wear that specific hat.
To wear the San Francisco Giants hat?
Right. Yeah, it's football season, right? So,
This
and
is
that's it.
baseball.
So that tells you what I know about sports. See?
Yeah, exactly. No, I was actually trying to figure out what hat to wear. Sometimes I tie it to a meaningful connection to the conversation, if possible. They're not all. It's not available for all types of conversations, but I do have a pretty deep well of hats. This has forced me. Forced is the wrong word. This has motivated me to buy extra hats. When I'm looking at a hat, I'm like, well, now I can keep the new hat every What's on Your Mind Friday going.
I might have to like bring a book with me for every Friday and just like show, like, here's the book of the week. But
There you go. Well, we know from behind you that you have more than enough books to get through it.
I hope my kids just pick these off the shelf, when they're teenagers, and I can influence them through that.
So you know what's so funny is I saw somebody say something on do we call it X or do we call it Twitter now? What's
I prefer
we
Twitter,
still
but I X more and more.
I still call it Twitter, but I think I'm getting coming around to the idea of calling it X. Anyway, I saw on Twitter a pretty interesting idea. Kids are older than yours. Kids are older than mine, though my kids are getting close there. They're 9 and 12. The father essentially said he would pay his kids $20 or $40 or some nominal amount when they wanted a little bit of money if they read one of his kind of like business related leadership self-help kind of books and then gave him a quick overview of what they learned from
Ooh. The second one I like that component. John Stuart's Mill father raised him very much the same way, except there was no compensation. But he'd have his son John Stuart Mill, who's an incredible economist, founder of utilitarianism, uh, and you'd go on a walk and say, "Well, tell me what you read." And J.S. Mill accomplished quite a lot. I would like that. I like that stuff. But I don't know if the compensation does much because the motivation isn't intrinsic. It's just getting through it to get the cash, and you kind of hope that the intrinsic motivation catches.
Well, I guess it depends on whether you're going for building up their intrinsic motivation or whether you're trying to build up their knowledge set. So if they read the book and they do internalize something and they actually say, write down, hey, this is what I learned from it, and they don't just like go to ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, what could you learn from this book? You'd
Like,
still have a value gain. You're going to give your kid the $20 anyway or $40,
oh, I
right?
see. So it's a substitute mechanism versus because you're gonna give them $20, $40 when they go to the shopping somewhere, I suppose. So I see what you're saying. It's
I'm
interesting.
imagining for myself. I'm not sure the
Yeah.
principles in action here. This person may not give money otherwise. There may be some slightly different kind of structure in place.
Right.
I
So
don't
who
know.
was I talking to the other day where their daughter, who I think like turned 8 or something, and said, "Hey, Dad, like, what do you do?" Who said that? Was that you, Justin, your son? No, I'm trying to remember who like someone had this conversation. And I said, "That's really," and they said, "Oh, I remember who it was." Or one of our friends in Puerto Rico, we just got back from, and he said, "Oh, well, let me tell you what I do." And they had a really, interesting 1 hour conversation, and then he introduced her to his business, and she wanted to learn more. And I don't know if it led to like a book reading per se, but that natural curiosity and cultivating that, I think it's a good
Yeah.
approach.
I talk to my kids a lot about that. Sometimes if I'm driving in the car and I have to do a conference call, I'll ask them to not say anything, but listen in. They don't
Mhm.
happen all the time. It's not like I'm taking calls while I'm driving around with my kids, but if it happens, originally I used to like put in AirPods or something so that they didn't have to hear it and they could do their own thing. And I was talking to somebody and they said, "Well, why not let your kids listen in and hear what you do and think about it?" And I
I like
thought,
that.
huh, it's
I
not
like
a
that
bad
idea.
idea.
I'd love to take my kids on like a business trip or a conference with me. That'd be wonderful, and have them just sit in and learn from all that. I think this would be
Yeah.
incredible education.
Especially in this remote world, you don't really like take your kid to work if you work at home. The kids, you
Right.
took your work home.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. No, I'd welcome that. So, what are we discussing? We've got what we the Puerto Rico trip with supplements is a special topic also.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's talk a little bit about Puerto Rico. How'd you like it? You hadn't been there in a while.
I've been in like I like the convenience. You're there on a short direct flight, and the theme is incredible, especially in Dorado, Puerto Rico, where you've got all these expats that have moved there to take advantage of a better tax treatment. And these are very accomplished people from all walks of life. They are hedge fund managers, there are early Bitcoin, ETH investors, there are executives that have run leading insurance companies. You know, we had a dinner, it was oversubscribed, we got an extra table and at the Ritz at the end, put them all there. It's like 120% attendance rate. And we had a best ideas dinner there. Everyone went around the room and sharing their best investment idea or their best longevity tip. It was great. I like the vibe very much. I think I intend to go back quarterly. Really good group. I mean, it's like a village. It's Dorado of I guess 700 plus or minus families. Pretty much everyone knows each other, and the quality of life there is excellent. You know, when you're on the Ritz residences, there's like not a single blade of grass that's off. And people play a lot of golf. They're into fitness. The quality of food is just like exceptional. The coffee is exceptional. It's a good, good quality of life. What were your impressions?
Yeah, I was impressed. I thought that uh, it takes a lot to move your family anywhere, right? So it takes a lot to move your family to a new city, to a new state, to a new country. And for the people who have decided to move to Puerto Rico, they're certainly incentivized by the tax benefits of Puerto Rico by design, right? Puerto Rico is trying to incentivize people to move there, and it's working. I'd say that I was impressed by the caliber of people. Not
Yeah,
that I expected anything less, but the density of
of the
high
count.
caliber people made you realize that it would be easy to move there and know that you could have a community, which I
Yeah,
think is always the challenge when you move anywhere new. It's like, how do you build and develop a community? And because it's a relatively small, we'll call it expat. Obviously, Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, but it is slightly different than other regions of the US. It does have an expat kind of feel. And I thought it was wonderful. And having spoken to a number of people, it was a lot of young families
yes,
because they indicated it was harder if you were a single person to move to Puerto Rico. And it was harder if you have older kids that are more established in school and their relationships, maybe high school age, pulling them out of school to relocate to Puerto Rico, not as easy, but a lot of people that had younger kids or who had their kids in Puerto Rico were there. So for families who have, children 0 to 10,
yeah,
and maybe even a little older, it seemed like there were a lot of US citizens, Puerto Rican residents who have moved there for tax benefits, and they
yeah.
have a really strong community, which is a tremendous asset to even things like longevity and mental health, right? Having a good community, and they all really knew
I
that
think
they needed to be there for one another.
I agree. I think it's the next generation West Palm Beach. We'll see that 20 years from now. You're going to look back, and I think that what is Dorado in Puerto Rico now.
Yeah, and it's gorgeous, right? Like island life is it's wonderful. I grew up in South Florida, so I appreciate the warm weather, and I did like the feeling of sunshine and 80 degrees in the winter.
It was
I could
good.
get used to that.
Yeah, no, it was good. I came back to some slush and I was like, oh man, Puerto Rico's nice.
It was really nice. Talk a little bit about the longevity and the health and wellness in Puerto Rico, because I was also struck by the focus that everybody has there. And I think one thing that was really interesting, having lived in different climates, that people who live in warm climates appreciate is that you have you have a different pressure to maintain physique, because you're going to be in a
That's
pool or on the beach 12 months out of the year versus 3 months out of the year or 4 months. And it does have an interesting psychological effect. And that was
yeah,
talked about by numerous people.
there's a social reinforcement mechanism to look good. And people are generally in very good shape. Everyone we met there, they're in good shape. Everyone's got their trainer and good diet. And the other part is they're incredibly knowledgeable about supplements and medicine and treatments. And you and I are on top of this stuff. And I learned a few things. It's like, what? I hadn't heard about that one. And so they trade these ideas with one another to eke out more health span.
That's right. Yeah, it was really interesting because this is a small group of people that have achieved pretty significant success financially in their life. So they have an opportunity and they have the means to think about these things and invest in it. So it makes sense, but it was very eye-opening to hear the way they thought about, spoke about, and critically examined their health.
Yeah, I mean the distribution of wealth, I would say at that dinner was like 50 million, 100 million, billion. I mean that's the level of the kind of wealth, and relatively young, highly accomplished, driven, young families that want to disinherit the IRS, which we're going to help them with. Justin owns that mission.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was really motivating. I agree. They are young, so they all were around our age. Some a little bit younger, some a little bit older. It was very
Right.
motivating to see
Oh, super motivating.
that number of people who have achieved that much success at that age.
Absolutely. So supplements are one of the things that we were talking about, and medicine. I think we're going to trade like what supplements we take on a daily basis. I should probably take a lot more than I do, but I have half a dozen, I think.
All right. So, you want to start us off? You want me to start off?
I'll start with one. So I take choline every day, alpha GPC. So when I did my 23andMe genetics, so I underproduced the level of choline I require. Choline's a precursor to key neurotransmitters. So it helps with memory formation, reasoning, and it's uh, present in eggs. In fact, moms that are expecting that take 4 eggs have their kids perform at a higher standardized test score than moms that take no eggs. It's linearly dose dependent. 4 eggs better than 3, better than 2. So I take choline every day.
Nice. Is that the only supplement you take every day, or
I take
are
more.
we going back and forth? You want to trade one
We'll
to
go back,
another?
go back and forth. Yeah.
All right. So, I don't take supplements every day, although I do have like a bundle that I should be taking every day. I'm not always kind of hitting my routine. The things I do hit every day, I do always do um, AG1 in the morning, and so I like the Athletic Greens one because it gives you kind of like a full
Yeah.
spectrum, really easy. We're not There's no paid advertisement here like you're going to hear on a lot of podcasts and things like that, but I do like it because it's very easy and it gives me a broad base of vitamins and minerals and nootropics and things like that, and then it's easy to take. I also, every time I weight train, I take creatine, And I actually don't do it for like the reasons I did it in college when I wanted to like
Right, for
get
strength,
bigger and
hypertrophy, all that. Yeah.
yeah, it has a lot of really positive cognitive benefits. And it also does help you kind of like maintain muscle mass, which at this point, like I'm not really trying to bulk up.
Right.
I'm just trying to
I
make sure
mean,
that I keep steady state.
that's a good reminder. I really need to take creatine because you're right. When we were in school, creatine was what you would take to build muscle mass, but now the benefits are so much broader beyond that. And as you said, cognitive. But yeah, creatine, I got to get back on my list. I just don't have a good way to consume it because there's a powder format. Because you need a decent amount of it to make an impact. Like a pill format tablet is just not going to do much.
Yeah, I do 5 grams, I think, every day, and I do it in my protein shake. So if I have a protein shake after I lift, then I'll just dump that in there.
Okay, so you pair it with a protein shake. That's a good way to make it come together. I like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, which my dogs are coming to say hello. I yeah, I mean that's kind of how I did it back in the day. I was taking more and doing it for different reasons when I was in college, and I wanted to bulk up a little bit. But now it's just kind of
I
a
gotta add,
small incremental dose.
creatine's a good one. Okay, another one, vitamin D with K2. This is critical. I think everyone should take this, especially in the wintertime when we get enough sunlight. But there's so many benefits from vitamin D plus the K2, which helps reduce the calcification risk of the veins and arteries. So you got to get that K2 in there. But it all helps with like mood. It's a precursor to various neurotransmitters as well. You're not getting enough sunlight. Uh, I listened to this podcast with Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and like half a dozen to a dozen different benefits. I walked away with like, no matter what, make sure you take your vitamin D. And I take these. Each pill has a 5,000 IU. I used to take 2. Now I take 3 because when I had my checkup with my doctor, he said, "Look, you need more vitamin D." I was surprised. Like, really? I'm already going above the RDA substantially. So now I'm up to 3. So consider that. You're on mute.
I think a really important thing that you're bringing up here is also the fact that you've taken a baseline assessment and you're tailoring what you're taking to your specific deficiencies and needs. That's something that I have committed to doing this quarter is like figuring out where my baseline is because I'm taking a bunch of supplements. I don't necessarily know if like I need
Right.
extra choline or extra whatever the supplement mineral vitamin is, but I need to do that. It was one of the things I wrote up in the stocking stuffer picks for 2024. There's a number of ways you can kind of assess this baseline. So that's part of it. I also take vitamin D and I do take a 5,000 IU daily. So that is one of the supplements that's on the list that when I take it, it's there. I also take like fish oil or krill oil or, one of those omega
Yes.
3s.
Well, you reminded me, Justin. This has been great because I got to reorder my krill oil. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but krill oil is the only fish oil that passes through the blood-brain barrier.
That's right.
And the brain is 50% fat, by the way, the other half protein. So go ahead. Krill oil, yeah, that's a great one. I just got to make sure it's not rancid. You need the high-quality fish oil product.
Yes. I do. I use Jocko super krill oil. I like it. It doesn't taste bad. Some of the other ones I've tried before have like a weird fishy taste. And that super krill
I
works
literally
really well.
just ordered it right now. Done. Okay.
There you go. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Absolutely. Let's see. What else? Okay, I'll take I have a statin I take. Statins are a bit controversial. My lipids came in way too high over the summer. I was also eating a lot of steak back then, by the way. Like I had 3 steaks a week, maybe 4. For lunch, I'd go sous vide a steak, come down and destroy it. I love steak. So doctor put me on a statin, and that was also informed by our reading of Dr. Peter Tia's book. The first statin gave me all sorts of awful side effects, like muscle pain, back pain. I was like, what the hell? I feel like I'm an 80-year-old guy. What's going on here? It doesn't make any sense. I switched to statin, and I no longer have those issues. I switched to pravastatin, by the way. But this COQ10 helps address issues with statins. That's what the literature says. So I take that. I don't know if I really need it. The statin works out pretty well for me. At the same time, why not? If it can offset some side effects, then I may as well take it.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Again, you're getting, though, from a baseline assessment, what do you need specifically for yourself?
Right.
Another one I take, I don't always take this. This is when I want to get in the zone or in the flow state for deep work or something like that. I take Alpha Brain.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it has a couple of different things inside of it. So it in and of itself is not the supplement, it's a brand. And Alpha Brain Memory and Focus is the one I take, which has a couple of ingredients: L-theanine, alpha GPC, some vitamin B6, and a couple of other things, the names of which I will butcher. But I have found that when I take that, I do get into a flow state, and
Oh, wow.
it's
Super
pretty
interesting.
incredible.
So choline is one of the active ingredients in Alpha Brain, by the way. I used to explore nootropics like 10 years ago. We might have to do a show just on nootropics. That could be fun. I don't take them now, though, and the reason is for twofold. One is there's a residency rate for these nootropics. I mean, they kind of like accumulate. You never really get a chance to downcycle them once you stop taking them. That's one. And the second is I could never really get a sense of whether it had an impact. With caffeine, I feel impact for sure. But we should interview someone who's a specialist on nootropics and go through that. That could be quite interesting. That'd be a lot of fun. There's so many out there, right? What's the nootropic that Air Force pilots used to take to avoid sleepiness?
Ooh, I don't know.
Name for it because an M. But that's one of these nootropics there. Right? I don't take that. I don't take Adderall. I don't take a lot of stuff. I try to minimize what I'm doing, focus on the needs, and get good sleep and good fitness and sunlight. I think it'd be okay. But nootropics are really an interesting idea, though, for sure.
Yeah, I have tried some others here and there, the names of which I can't even remember because they weren't super meaningful to me. But the Alpha Brain, I feel like I know when it kicks in, and I can very clearly sense it. The feeling is almost like I feel like something in my eyes. And it's like I can sense the flow state coming. Now, if you don't do something about it, then you won't get the benefit of it. But if you actually sit down and say, I'm going to work for 75, 90 minutes on a particular project, and you have taken that a little bit before that starts, you will get into it. You will get absolutely laser focused on whatever you're doing.
Fascinating. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to experiment with that. Interesting. I think I tried it a few years ago again. I don't know if it did much for me, but I may not have been paying attention closely to it. And so I just stopped using it, but it's super interesting.
You take anything for any sleep supplements?
Yeah. So now and then I'll take L-theanine, which is what you mentioned earlier, which is a relaxant. I might take that with magnesium as well. Sometimes I take that through a product called Calm, and it helps relax the muscles. I don't take L-theanine quite often. What I like about it is that it's not a hormone like melatonin. You don't want to mess with our hormones. That's the guidance from Huberman as well. So let's go with the guidance that from the pros that we respect. So now and then I might take theanine, but I try to avoid making a daily habit because then you start to get the need to take it. And if you don't,
it does not create addiction, though. It does not have a physically addictive property. It doesn't impact any of your, like you said, natural hormonal production.
Which is what I like. And by the way, it also helps increase vividness of dreams, which I think is super cool. And I'm going to skip one. These are all related ideas. Here's my shortcut. If you want a lucid dream, this is alpha drop right here. We had that lucid dreaming podcast. I struggle with achieving lucidity in dreams, but whenever they happen, they're truly magical. They're deep spiritual experiences, really powerful stuff. But if you go to bed for, call it 5 hours or 6 hours, and you wake yourself up with an alarm clock, walk around for 10 minutes, take this. This is galantamine. This is the extract of a white flower. The Greeks used to harvest this white flower, turn it into, I guess, like a powder form, and then consume it. But one of these will often give you a lucid dream. Two certainly will. The downside is that you might actually be able to fall asleep because there is a stimulative component. So experiment with it and try to go to bed at the same time every night. Get in a routine. You generally have 90-minute sleep cycle, so count out when you expect to be in REM. Generally takes about 8 to 15 minutes to fall asleep. The sleep latency. If you want to have a lucid dream, this is a good shortcut to try. So when my kids wake me up in the middle of the night sometimes, and I gotta go help them go to the bathroom, whatever. If it's 3 a.m., all right, let me go get some galantamine here to turn this challenge into an opportunity. Maybe I'll get a lucid dream out of it as a gift.
That's pretty cool. I had never heard of that one. I do take L-theanine every night for sleep, and love it. It works really, really well. I get great sleep. Do have pretty vivid dreams, which is usually good. And I experience pretty restful sleep, which I think not necessarily attribute to L-theanine, but it's helping.
Very cool.
It's great.
What else? What else do you take?
Let's see. So every once in a while, I rotate off of coffee and do kind of like a detox from caffeine. And when I do that, I'll have a product called Mud Water. And Mud Water has like some natural, I don't not necessarily supplements in there, but it does have adaptogens and mushrooms in it to give you the feeling of energy that you would get typically from caffeine. And it gives you some kind of like focus and immune support through that. So I really like that. So I won't liken it, I won't say it is a supplement, but it does have some ingredients that have an effect
Ooh,
similar to supplements.
really cool. And they've got great mushrooms here: chaga, reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps mushrooms. This is
Yeah,
quite.
they really do. It's really good. I started it. So for a while, I probably did like 3 years where I was no caffeine, and I was just like all mud water. I've kind of gone back. Caffeine's a pretty spectacular drug, so I don't mind having a little bit of it. It is pretty powerful, and but I do not appreciate the habit forming nature of it. Like I know from my days when I was at a law firm, I would drink
Yeah.
way too much, and I would feel the headache when I wasn't drinking it. And that's what triggered me to get off of it because I was like, oh gosh, it's like clearly a sign of like addiction and withdrawal. And I remember I had this moment. I was traveling a lot from my last business, and I was traveling every other week to Colorado. And I would fly very, very early on Monday mornings. And I would see the people in line at the Starbucks at Dulles Airport. And I mean, it was a very long line. And they just looked like addicts
Yeah.
waiting for their fix.
Yeah.
And some whatever it was in that moment, it kind of struck me as like really problematic. And so I detoxed at that moment. Now I can't say that I'm not on it now. I'm back on, had a couple of cups this morning, but I'm a bit more mindful about how much and how often. And I do have a pretty strict cutoff time in the morning if I do have caffeine. But I like the mud water as an alternative, and the mushrooms there are really, really,
I got
really
to give
interesting.
that a shot. I used to downcycle caffeine as well because, to your point, I get a headache if I skipped it for a day, and then I say that's it. I got to downcycle for 3 days. And once you go through that journey, your baseline level of mental acuity gets back to where you were with the caffeine, and then you start saying, "Well, gee, why do I need the caffeine?" But if you take the caffeine, you do get this like super bump, and then you keep taking it, and then your baseline drops again. So you're back on the treadmill. So I got to do that again. It's a really good point. I had forgotten about that. I just ordered Bud Water too. Like Amazon Prime cards getting a lot of charges. Notorious Big Bull says it's always key to cycle on and off with any form of supplement. Absolutely true. And the caffeine in cold brew is next level. I don't do cold brew. I also don't take any caffeine after 2 p.m. because it'll interrupt my sleep. Maybe I might do a light green tea because some people are caffeine sensitive. I know I am.
2 p.m.? I
2
cut
p.m.
off at 10 a.m.
Wow. So yeah, I'm a slow caffeine metabolizer. Some people can take like an espresso at like 9. It doesn't matter. Or maybe it does matter.
Well, they say that, but it still interferes with your sleep. And there's some research that a number of folks that we have mentioned on the show already, Huberman, et cetera, talk about. It does interfere with your sleep. 2 p.m. is a late cutoff because the half-life of caffeine is about 5 hours. So you have about a quarter of, well, for you, if you're doing it at 2 p.m., yeah, you still have a quarter of the caffeine in your system at midnight.
I gotta cut that out. I gotta stop that then. That's not good. And it's, sleep is so crucial and important. And a lot of people struggle with sleep. Now, if you can't fall asleep within 8 minutes, 8 minutes is the average latency to fall asleep. If you use like one of those sleep devices to measure that.
Where do you measure that from? Like when you lie in bed and start trying to fall asleep, or is that like how would you, if you're somebody that reads in bed before you fall asleep, when would you start that timer?
Right. Yeah. When you lay in bed and you say, okay, now I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna put my head on my pillow and
Like
that's
you
it.
close the book and say that's it?
Yes. Close the book, lights off. You're fully relaxed. You're in bed, and your sole focus is going to sleep.
That's interesting. I fall asleep so much faster than that.
Wow, that's amazing. So we should chat about sleep some other time again. But like there's a state of mind where you're falling asleep called I think it's called hypnagogia or something, or hypnagogia, and it's where you start to see images as you transition to the sleep state. And I was listening to this podcast about this state, and apparently the more you can concentrate on being aware of those images also improves the chance of having a lucid dream too.
Oh, that's really interesting. I fall asleep probably I typically read and then I'll feel the sensation of like, okay, now I'm like tired and
Good
I'll
time.
close my book and I wear a sleep mask. I put on my sleep mask. I get into like the specific position
Yeah.
that I have to sleep in with my like pillow set up that my wife thinks is absolutely crazy because I am very regimented about where the pillows are. Just feels more comfortable.
Yeah.
I sleep on my side. I'm
Yeah.
out in 30 seconds.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm not that fast. I gotta modify my caffeine intake and try that out. Yeah, I'm very regimented about sleep too. We can have a whole deep dive on sleep protocol. I mean, it's yeah, it
We
can go.
should. We
Try
should.
to
And I see we've got the comments from Notorious Big Bull,
yeah,
which, by the way, great name. Love it.
that's awesome.
He talks about working out in the morning and cold showers, etc. Sleep like a baby. Totally agree. That's probably why I'm nodding off so quickly.
I like that. I gotta get back in that routine. I had morning workouts, but now I've shifted to evening temporarily just because of the managing the kids' life cycle. They wake up when I'm supposed to go to the gym, so it's like, come on.
It's
Yeah.
really tough. It's really tough.
What else? So I think we covered off on the supplements. There's definitely so many other ones out there, but I try to keep to what's most essential. Let us know if you think we might have missed any that we should consider. I love the krill oil one. I'm putting that in the essential bucket.
Yeah,
And
I also I take a joint supplement.
which one?
What is it, like the magnesium
Like
chondroitum or something?
glycophosphate, glycosinate or something like that, or
Yeah, it's something like that. I butcher these medical names. Glucosamine chondroitin, something like
glucosamine.
that. Yeah. I don't know if it does anything, but
Yeah.
I don't like that when I kind of do air squats, I hear my knees, and it's not like an age thing. I've always heard that, a decade ago, I heard the same thing. 2 decades ago, I heard the same thing. So
Yeah.
just feel like maybe if that has any preventative capabilities, then I'll enjoy the benefit of it someday.
Yeah, I see Jocko offers that one on his brand as well. My wife started experiencing some enjoyment too, so I'm gonna get her some of that. Forgot about that. And the supplement I don't take, but maybe I should, is metformin for life extension and longevity.
Mm,
This DOT has talked about quite a bit. I think you have to get a prescription, although it's available generically in other countries. But a lot of data showing that healthy metformin is used to treat insulin resistance and diabetes and this and that. But there's a lot of people, especially in Silicon Valley and VC types, et cetera, folks that want to live forever that are taking it off-label use. And yeah, there's tons of random clinical trial data around it that's safe and effective.
yeah, I have an anti-aging supplement as well that I take every once in a while. It's NMN,
Oh, yeah,
nicotinamide mononucleotide, and
right.
it's supposed to be a precursor to NAD plus. And I have it. I mean, I know I'm not going to live forever, but I wouldn't mind living as long as possible in a
You take
healthy.
it every day or not?
Not every day. But that's probably only because my routine isn't great about this supplement because it's like I don't know, like it's annoying. You like swallow a bunch of pills and do all that stuff, and sometimes at that point in my day, it's like if I'm up early and I've worked out, and then I am kind of like either after a shower or something like that, I'm starting to deal with my kids in the morning routine,
Yeah,
getting them fed, getting out the door.
yeah,
So I haven't made the time to make it an essential component
I
of
agree.
a part of my day.
I have that also. I don't take it because it's a pain in the butt to take. You can't take it in the pill form. You've got to put it under your tongue and a few other steps. And I'm like, okay, it's just that one's
Yeah.
just not going to get taken there.
Yeah, I do have the one that you do under the tongue.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thank you. I think we covered off on our supplements. We should get someone to help us think through the optimal supplement strategy, though. There are a few that came up there.
Yeah, I agree. I'll make it a mission to find somebody and interview them for the Lumina
So
Legacy podcast.
good call. Good call. With the Lumina
Awesome.
Legacy podcast, I know next week I think we're interviewing a Super Bowl athlete as well, and he's all about mental game and training young athletes and resilience. So that's going to be fun. We also have an interview coming up with Don Hatfield, who's the producer of a great movie called The Founder, which is a story of the building of McDonald's. So he's a co-producer along with the guy who played like Nighthawk or Skyhawk in the Avengers, Jeremy something. Anyway, so that'll be a lot of fun. He's going to talk about the art of storytelling. This is a guy that grew up in a small town in Herndon, Virginia, and went to the big leagues. So his personal story, I think, will be really quite fascinating too. Both very humble people that have accomplished quite a lot. Anyone else that you're talking to soon?
I have somebody that I'm talking to that I should be interviewing for the podcast soon, and it's a personal trainer at the company Barry's Boot Camp.
All right.
Who is it? Sorry, I'm talking to a couple people. He's either at Peloton or Barry's Boot Camp, and he's a head of programming. I want to talk to him about how they program and develop routines.
I like it. I like it. Very cool. So check out. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify. But one is Lumina Legacy, which Justin leads, and the second is Non-Consensus Investing. So it's been fun. I think we might have a What's on Your Mind one also. We'll see how that works. But good stuff. Until next week. Make it a great
Awesome.
one.
Thanks, Rom. Have a great weekend.
Be well.